Welcome to From Pain to Power 2.0, a community convening on perinatal mental health, storytelling, and systems change. Let's give it up. It's wonderful to be together in person today. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Gabrielle Brown. I serve as the Maternal and Infant Health Program Manager at Black Women for Wellness. I'm grateful to be in space with all of you today. We created this space to uplift your stories, strengthen our community, and move us toward real systems change around the preventable perinatal mental health crisis that impacts 1 in 3 moms and 1 in 10 dads in California. Before we begin, I want to offer a phrase that has been grounding me lately. May we be at ease. I know many of us are arriving here carrying a lot and navigating incredibly challenging times. So today, may we breathe. May we feel held in community, and may we leave here not only informed, but connected, restored, and activated. And so I'm curious, how many of you were here for the first From Pain to Power? If you can raise your hand. Okay, it's great to see y'all again. And I'm curious, how many are joining us for the first time today? Awesome, welcome. And so before we begin, I'd like to express heartfelt gratitude to the incredible planning committee who made today possible. To the representatives from our partner organizations jointly leading this event, please stand so we can recognize you. Planning committee. It takes a lot to put these events together, y'all. Let's give it up. And we also want to recognize the sponsors whose support helped make this gathering possible. If you're one of our sponsors, please stand so that we can thank you too. Any of our sponsors? Let's give it up for the sponsors, y'all. And so what I love about this gathering is that it reminds us that healing, storytelling, and systems change all can happen through relationships and community. And in many ways, what we birthed at the first Pain to Power has continued growing into a movement that's being nurtured by survivors, mamas, advocates, providers, and community leaders across California. So now, it's my honor to introduce the 2 mothers who helped envision and co-create this space. Cassie Manjikian is a longtime social justice organizer, board member of Maternal Mental Health Now, and founding director of the California Perinatal Wellness Alliance, or CPWA. And Deborah Herbert is a women's health advocate, documentary filmmaker behind the Imperfect Mothers Club, and a founding partner of CPWA as well. Please join me in warmly welcoming Cassie and Dev.
Thank you so much, Gabrielle, and good morning, everyone. We are so happy you're here. I want to start by sending love to all the mothers, those navigating grief, and caregivers this Mother's Day season, Maternal Mental Health Month, including my own mom, Vicki, who's here supporting me today as always. Thank you, and I love you, Mom. So a year and a half ago, many of us gathered in this very room to reimagine what a just perinatal mental health system could look like. And from the beginning, we knew that we weren't just organizing a conference. We were growing a movement already rising across California, which many of you have been leading for many years, grounded in healing, storytelling, solidarity, and systems change. For me personally, this work began 9 years ago after surviving postpartum psychosis, after going 5 days without sleep, hallucinating, and falling through the cracks of a mental health system, despite a lot of privilege. And as painful as that experience was, every time I've shared my story out loud, I feel a little more free. Because this space isn't about any one person's story. It's about what becomes possible when people stop suffering in silence and start recognizing ourselves in each other. And that ripple effect from survivors to providers to advocates to policymakers is how movements grow. And that's what today is all about. That first Pain to Power gathering was the birthplace of the California Perinatal Wellness Alliance, or CPWA. Alongside many partners in this room, we're now a survivor and community-led statewide alliance advancing storytelling, systems change, and movement building for perinatal mental health and justice. And since that first gathering, this movement has continued growing. We organized a statewide advocacy day around SB 626. Many folks traveled to Sacramento with us to advance legislation focused on strengthening screening, care coordination, and accountability. Our statewide storytelling movement has grown through our Breaking the Silence storybook with 50 survivors across California. And just 3 weeks ago, we convened a statewide agency roundtable with first partner Jennifer Siebel-Newsom and California Surgeon General Dr. Diana Ramos to bring together 40 state leaders and talk about how we can create more connected systems of care. Because while awareness has grown, too many families are still struggling to access timely, culturally responsive care. I was shocked when I learned that perinatal mental health is the #1 cause of maternal mortality in the US and the #1 and the most common complication of pregnancy. 1 in 3 moms and 1 in 10 dads are affected, and 85% go without treatment. And of course, we know Black, Indigenous, people of color, immigrant families, and marginalized communities are most impacted. This is a preventable public health crisis, and none of us can solve it alone. And that's why today matters. Today is about much more than raising awareness. Today is about reducing stigma, centering lived experience, building solidarity, and advancing systems change. And ultimately, it's about moving from pain to power so families feel supported to share stories, seek help, access care, and thrive. And that's because this work belongs to all of us. And one of the most powerful ways we can build change is through storytelling. And with that, I'd like to welcome and introduce Dev.
Thank you, Kath. Thank you, Cassie. It's been an incredible journey. I'm honored to be on it with you. I want to start today by celebrating what we have accomplished in a year and a half. It's incredible. We came together a year and a half ago. We started by saying, maybe we'll have a wine and cheese evening and share some stories. Then we had a conference. We came together with a shared mission to raise awareness, reduce stigma, and drive policy change. At the time, that felt really ambitious. Today, we have created CPWA, we have introduced California Senate Bill 626, and in 18 months, we have earned the attention and support of leaders all across California. First Partner Newsom, Surgeon General Ramos, Supervisor Holly Mitchell, Senator Alex Padilla, Senators Smallwood Cuevas, Cervantes, Valladares, and other leaders who you're going to hear from today. It's incredible that what began as some women getting together and saying something has to change in 18 months has turned into legislation and groundbreaking campaign and a movement. So thank you all for being part of that. When I say it out loud, I'm like, really? So we have also proven something really powerful, which is that personal stories change lives. Some of you have heard my story, so I'll be brief. But when I became pregnant with our daughter Isabella, watch my fingers, I was 47. I'd been through 6 years of fertility treatments. I'd had a miscarriage. I had pregnancy complications and a traumatic childbirth. And then my daughter was born with severe developmental delays. And I had a family history of depression and anxiety. Nobody told me I had 7 of the leading risk factors for postpartum depression. I had great doctors and great insurance. My postpartum depression was inevitable. It was in the cards and nobody warned me. My primary symptom, which was anxiety, severe anxiety, began when I was pregnant. But I was pregnant. I wasn't postpartum. And I was anxious. I didn't feel depressed. So it didn't occur to me that I might have postpartum depression, and I did not ask for help. Then later, when my husband became depressed, did we think that men could get postpartum depression? Nobody knew that at the time. Nobody was talking about that. He didn't ask for help either. We struggled alone for much longer than we needed to. And that is why our stories are so vital, because we share our stories. Stories are information. Stories heal. Stories are evidence that change legislation and change lives and prevent, most importantly, suffering. Last year, we screened a film I directed, the Imperfect Mothers Club, featuring the stories of 5 women who had experienced postpartum depression. This year, we're honored to uplift voices that are too often left out of the conversation. Stories about miscarriage, stillbirth, adoption. Most adoptive parents don't realize that they also can get postpartum depression. Stories from fathers and many others who, even within this conversation, don't get heard and don't feel entitled to claim this name of this illness, postpartum depression, and therefore don't get help. So I'm really excited to be expanding the conversation today in films that you're going to see and in some personal stories that you will hear in this room today. These stories are brave, they're painful, they're necessary, and they remind us that we do not need to suffer in silence. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for helping build a future where every parent and child can be seen, supported, and believed.
Thanks so much, Dev. You can just stand, maybe. So we just a few quick intro pieces here. We acknowledge that we are gathered on the unceded native lands of the Tongva, Chumash, Gabrielino, and Kizh people in what is now Los Angeles. And in the same way, we acknowledge that our country was built with stolen labor and that the generational wealth, which was created by the hands and on the backs of enslaved Africans, has been kept by them while enriching others. And as we pause and reflect on our connection with this land and its people, I invite us to call in our ancestors and know that they're here with us now, supporting us with wisdom and intergenerational healing. And as we reflect, let us remember that land acknowledgements are not only about honoring the past, but recognizing our shared responsibility now in the present.
Can I use your script?
Yeah.
Thank you. On that note, I would like to offer a wellness reminder. Some of the stories we're going to be hearing today include trauma, loss, and emotional distress. We know these conversations can bring up strong feelings, especially for those of us with lived experience. Please take care of yourself today however you need. If you need to get up and step outside and take a break, please do. That's absolutely okay. We also have several people here today who are available to listen and provide support if anything feels activating or overwhelming. If you're one of those support people, can you please stand so people can see you and approach you if needed? Thank you so much. Also, later this afternoon, we will be having some wellness activities, including yoga and a storytelling circle, which you'll hear more about later.
Great. Thank you, Dev, for grounding us in self-care. A few quick housekeeping notes. We're filming today's event, so if you prefer not to be on camera, just let our videographers know, and you can feel free to sit toward the back. Please silence your phones. Bathrooms and water stations are just outside near breakfast, and exits are marked at the back of the room. Today we'll move from storytelling and education into healing and systems change and collective action. So this morning you'll hear from public leaders, experts, and community storytellers, both on film and here in this room. After lunch, We'll explore what systems change could look like across California through our systems change panel. And then this afternoon, we'll close with optional community labs focused on healing, storytelling, and advocacy. And our full agenda is listed here at the front and also available on QR codes posted around the room. So we hope that you leave today, as one registrant said in the RSVP form, feeling informed, connected, and surrounded by light. And now we're really excited to hand things over to someone who really understands the healing power of humor, vulnerability, storytelling, and community. When we decided to bring Pain to Power back, the first thing we said was, we need Nicole. Nicole Blaine is a comedian, postpartum depression survivor, founder of the Crow Comedy Club, and creator of Storyectomy Baby Bumps partnership with Maternal Mental Health Now. Last year, she held this space with warmth, honesty, humor, and heart in a way that felt truly magical. And Dev and I actually got to participate in her Storyectomy program, where we got to tell our stories comedically on stage, which was truly one of the most transformative experiences of my life. Nicole, we love you so dearly, and we're so grateful for you're here. Please join us in welcoming Nicole.
Hi. Oh, hello. Hi, my name is Nicole. If I could identify myself in clothes, it is that sweater. I got it at like a thrift store for almost no money, and I was like, this is me. I am a rainbow crochet, and my cat ate it, and I'm still angry. So I'm just looking at it going, I love that sweater. Hi, it's so nice to be back. It's so wonderful. I think that we're doing something really special, and it's genuinely an honor to partner with this specific community in bringing so much light and love to a very important way to address change and policy. So thank you for letting me be here. One of the things they said to me was also make sure they keep us on time. We're 4 minutes late, okay? And we're supposed to do a big, nice deep breath. I mean, in and out. No, okay. And then we'll get there, and then I'll make sure we get back on time. Okay, but for real, I do feel that the power of community and grounding ourselves is essential. And I think it's really nice to take a giant 8 rep and begin our day together. So let's do a 5, what is it, 4, a box rep? Who's leading yoga later? Right? Is it a box rep? 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out. Let's do it together. Thank you. Now we're in our archives. We're in someone's house, and when someone lets us be in their house, it is so amazing, especially when it symbolizes all that we stand for. So today, we are in the house of Wellness, and I would love to have Wellness CEO come up here and take a moment. You have 2 minutes, but make it fast. Her name is Charlene Demas Perinatal. Charlene is a licensed psychotherapist and nationally respected behavioral health leader who has spent more than 2 decades advancing mental health, housing stability, and community well-being for the youth, children, families, and across Los Angeles. Under her leadership, Wellness has become a powerful example of what trauma-informed community-centered care can look like in practice. Charlene, where's Charlene? Oh my gosh. Charlene, thank you for opening this space to us and all the work that you have done with your team every single day. Please join me in welcoming Charlene Demas.
What a beautiful opening. I already feel at ease and grounded, so thank you for that. And my name is Charlene Demas Peinado. So on behalf of our board of directors, our staff, and the community of children and families we serve here at Wellness, we welcome you. And we are so proud to host you this very important event today, Pain to Power. And if you're not familiar with Wellness, we were founded in 1924, and we are a nationally recognized trauma-informed mental health and housing organization, and we serve children from birth to age 25. And we are very committed to also ensuring that all our children, our mothers, our fathers, our families are nurtured and cared for and are healing in harmony as well. And tomorrow we're actually hosting an event, Healing in Harmony. So if you're available, come by tomorrow and join us. I also want to ask you to pardon our desk. We are building our second housing development. We are housing young men and women who are aging out of the foster care system. 10% already have babies. And we also, thank you. And we're almost done. And we also specialize in 0 to 5 services. And so we do have a table outside that will provide information to all of you who may be seeking out those services. And we accept referrals every single day. And in fact, in this building, you can walk in without an appointment and you will be triaged and appropriately referred to services, whether it's in our organization or any of our partner organizations. So please come by anytime you need us to help you and support your Nepahag Waldi. So again, we want to welcome you, and this is a beautiful community forum that convenes our community leaders to address the important matter of perinatal mental health justice. And we're here to be your partners and to support you in this advocacy. So thank you again for your advocacy, your policy work, and we're here, so do not hesitate to reach out to us. Again, welcome and thank you.
That's amazing. You can go longer next time. You deserve it. Here's what's interesting. So she's doing some of the most important work that needs to get done. And we know that what we're doing here today is we're talking about all of our truths, all of the perinatal mental health support that we need. We can't do it alone. Telling these stories in a vacuum isn't going to take us to the next level. So how do we move this forward? And that's with public leadership. So we're just going to take a moment, because we can't do this by ourselves. We need to thank the public leaders who have listened to our stories and are taking this to the next level. So
thank you to all of our leaders that we've recognized are taking this to the next movement. And now we're going to go ahead and move into sort of our next segment, where we're going to talk about the truth of being someone who has lived experience and hitting it from another level. So I think that at this moment, because perinatal mental health affects so many families, and so many people don't fully understand what it is, how common it is, or how deeply it can impact people and communities. Whether you're brand new to this conversation or you've been doing this work for years, our next speaker is here to ground us in the realities, disparities, myths, and healing possibilities surrounding perinatal mental health. Dr. Anna King is a licensed psychotherapist, director of perinatal mental health at Diversity Uplifts, member of the California Perinatal Wellness Alliance, and a powerful voice for maternal mental health. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Anna King.
Get adjusted here. Good morning, everyone. So many familiar faces here. Thank you, Nicole, for the introduction. I'm here to absolutely give you an overview of perinatal mental health, but I'm doing something a little different today. Because of the nature of this event, I was lovingly encouraged to share a part of my story to contextualize my passion and connection to this work. And so this is a photo of my family. That's me as a baby there on the left side. So my journey with and passion for protecting the mental health of families during pregnancy and postpartum didn't begin with me becoming a mother. It began generations before me. My great-grandmother, in the top left, was born after her own mother died, before her mother died in childbirth, and she was subsequently adopted. That loss, that grief, shaped the generations that followed. My grandmother, just next to her, became a mother herself at 14, trapped in a severely abusive relationship in all the ways, with a man 6 years older than her. By 19, she had 4 children, had experienced multiple pregnancy losses, and a neonatal loss. I actually found the baby's birth certificate on Ancestry.com. Her name was Virginia. While surviving constant violence and navigating poverty and chronic stress. She attempted suicide twice during that time, and she later developed an eating disorder and lifelong undiagnosed mental health challenges. As the oldest daughter, my mother witnessed all of that pain and suffering and held on to it. After I was born and admitted to the NICU, she became so depressed she couldn't bring herself to take me home at the time of discharge. Her sister had to convince her that she could do it and that she wouldn't be alone. She has lived a lifetime of complex trauma, chronic depression, chronic illness, and deep confusion about what love and safety looks like in practice, both necessary components of creating an environment for an infant to grow and thrive. On my father's side, my grandmother was also a teen mother and a survivor of reproductive experimentation as a Black woman in the South. She developed alcoholism, and my father, also the oldest, was left parenting his 8 younger siblings after returning from the Korean War, which he left to serve for at 16. Then there was me. Even as a mental health professional already supporting birthing parents in the ER, NICU, and postpartum units, I was completely unprepared for my own pregnancy and postpartum experience. I struggled with intrusive thoughts, debilitating anxiety and depression, and the overwhelming belief that I was inadequate as a mother. My baby girl, here on the right, she's sweet. You can't tell by the picture, but she's very sweet. My baby girl was born with a congenital heart defect, which meant we were in the cardiologist's office about every 2 months until she finally had corrective surgery at 2.5 years old. So I white-knuckled those first few years, working, nursing, pumping, and trying desperately to hold myself together with no maternal support and while parenting in isolation. And I did what any working mother would do. I went back to get a PhD. I told provider after provider that I didn't feel like myself, and because I was still functioning and wasn't experiencing an acute mental health crisis, no one connected the dots that I was suffering. No one assessed my family history, no one screened me, not once did I complete an EPDS or a PHQ. It wasn't until I attended my first perinatal mental health training that everything finally made sense to me. I realized I hadn't just missed this in the families that I had served, I had missed it in myself and in my family. I realized I had inherited generations of trauma, stress, and silence. And today, as someone now living with an autoimmune illness, likely because of generations of exhaustion, I deeply believe that mental health care is maternal health care. Our bodies, our minds, our relationships, and our histories are all interconnected. That is why this work is important to me, because when we fail to recognize risk factors, trauma, intimate partner violence, teen pregnancy, loss, family history, chronic and toxic stress, we fail families. And when we truly listen, screen, educate, and support proactively, we have the opportunity to interrupt generations of suffering. Thank you. So, just taking a moment to define perinatal mental health for those of you who may be familiar with it already or who may be new to it. When we say perinatal, we use that term intentionally to cover a wide time frame. So often, as some of our other colleagues have mentioned, we really kind of focus on thinking about postpartum, and really when we're trying to mostly focus on those first few weeks and months after childbirth has happened. But we really are thinking about this before even people get to the point of pregnancy. We're talking about people who are family planning, trying to get pregnant, trying to conceive, and who are maybe between pregnancies, because we have a real opportunity to understand what people may be predisposed to, help them heal, and help them really have the healthiest pregnancy that they can have. We're also talking about the time period of pregnancy, so between conception and childbirth, and we've already heard today that about 20 to 30% of perinatal depression cases emerge during pregnancy. And that also includes folks who have experienced losses. Someone who has experienced a loss is still postpartum. And we're also, when we extend that timeline, we're thinking about postpartum up to 2 years after pregnancy. And we know that the highest incidence of postpartum depression is 3 to 6 months postpartum. We all know a lot of stuff happening around that time. People are going back to work. Babies are not sleeping again all of a sudden. Like, what the heck? And then we also know that the incidence of perinatal suicide is actually most likely to occur 6 to 12 months postpartum. And oftentimes folks are already discharged from care. So we really are thinking about this full spectrum and range, and really thinking about the whole family.
And a lot of times people enter pregnancy with this expectation of what it's going to look like. They get a lot of messages about this, you'll have the maternal instinct, it'll kick in and you'll know exactly what to do. But any one of us who have parented before know that there's a lot of skill building that's involved. Those babies, they come as their own human being, and we have to learn them and they have to learn us, and it's a built relationship that happens over time. But what parents come in thinking is that I'm gonna have some instinct that kicks in, I'm gonna know exactly what to do, and if that doesn't happen, then folks immediately think there's something wrong with them. There's this kind of culture of self-sacrifice that surrounds parenthood, that you put yourself last, you put your children first, and what that does is it creates a culture where if you are struggling, if you do have needs, then you're not willing to prioritize that for yourself. There's a lot of perfectionism. I don't have to explain that. I think people put really high expectations on themselves that are really unreachable, especially as it relates to parenting. And there's this conversation around and honestly a debate on what's natural or unnatural, right? And for me, I'm like, okay, so if you had a natural birth, does that mean that you gave birth in the middle of a forest next to a tree, and the moon was out and, there's nobody around? Like how do we really define that? And so people are putting these expectations on themselves that are really not incongruent with, they're not congruent with reality. And so this really leads to these fears that people have of speaking up about their mental health. And as we heard with some of the policymakers, that there's this real, very valid fear of surveillance and punitive consequences if someone does experience challenges with their mental health. And the consequence of that is delays in care, misdiagnosis, and shame and stigma. And we all know about that pregnancy glow that people are expecting and the snapback that for most of us doesn't happen. So, I want to go back and just name, does anybody know what plant this is? Anybody recognize it? Somebody said it over here? It's nettles. It's nettles. So what do we understand about nettles? If you don't have the right protective gear, it's uncomfortable when you touch it. But if you have the right protective gear, you can access the benefits, the nurturing, healing benefits. And I find it to be a really beautiful metaphor and symbol. I find a lot of symbolism in nature, and you'll see some more in this presentation, but I find it to be a really beautiful symbol of something can feel uncomfortable, but if you have the right supports, you can access the healing benefits. And I hear that actually it's can be useful during pregnancy and postpartum, just saying. I'm not an herbalist, but... And so we've talked a little bit about this already, but really the take-home point here is that perinatal mental health is not just about the person giving birth. We're talking about the whole family. We're also not just talking about depression. These are some of the kind of statistics here. I won't go through the whole thing, but we're not just talking about someone who's sitting in front of you who's debilitatingly depressed. Oftentimes we're going to encounter someone who may be extremely anxious and maybe not able to verbalize that to you, and it presents in other ways because of the disparities and barriers to people not speaking up or getting the care that they need in a timely manner. Oftentimes people also experience that somatically, meaning they will be talking about things happening in their body, stomach ache, heart palpitations, things like that, and really it's an underlying mental health challenge that has gone unnoticed. And so a recent study, the MIHA study, found that in California, we actually are now in a spot where about 1 in 3 people will experience perinatal depression and anxiety, and that number is really, really high, and it makes it so that when you're working with pregnant people, it's pretty likely that you're going to encounter someone who is struggling with their mental health. And there's a lot more here that you can kind of take home, but the idea is that we're really talking about a spectrum of emotional responses, and we also care about people who are experiencing mental health challenges that maybe don't necessarily meet criteria for a clinical diagnosis. And so some of the contributing risk factors, we've heard some of them this morning, personal and family history, social determinants of health. And so the work that many of us are doing around making sure that families have their basic needs met, that is mental health care. And even the work that we're doing around birth equity and ensuring that providers understand how to track and check their biases at the door and reduce the experiences of discrimination and racism, that is mental health care. Isolation is a huge risk factor, the presence or history of trauma or violence, disruptions in sleep, physiological issues. So you see here that there are really a kind of a wide range in different areas that can really create conditions for someone to struggle with their mental health. And here in this image, you see there's roots there that are nourishing this beautiful plant. And so you have to think about, in order to grow a healthy plant, you have to think about the environment, the soil it's in, the kind of nourishment and water that it has access to. And similarly, we have to make sure that we have a healthy environment and the nourishment that we need in order to thrive. And so, as mentioned, maternal health and mental health care are inextricably connected. Perinatal mental health care is maternal health care. And untreated perinatal mental health conditions can lead to poor birth outcomes. But there's a lot that we can do. There are a lot of protective factors. As we were thinking about the metaphor of nettles, if you have the right protective gear, you have the right supports, then you can really access the healing that you deserve. And so to begin really ensuring access to healthcare, and that includes therapy. And I just have to say that therapy isn't for everybody. It's not always even the first or best choice for a lot of people. Really just making sure they have their basic needs met goes a long way. And making sure that people are out of isolation goes a long way for a lot of people. Protecting rest and restoration, and we say rest over sleep because sometimes for some people, if you tell them just go get some sleep, that creates more anxiety because they're already having anxiety that's keeping them from sleeping. And so, finding opportunities to take care of the people that we know are in their really tender, vulnerable period in recovery, and making sure that they are able to prioritize that and ask for help. Opportunities for storytelling. We're here at an event where we have really leaned into the potential that storytelling has to both help the person feel seen and heard, but also to have us really have a grounded understanding of what this looks like in practice, really understand and hear solutions through the stories. And so that can really be a really healing, protective factor. And there's research that shows that when folks are able to tell their birth story within the first few days after birth, it significantly reduces the risk of birth trauma. And so storytelling has a really healing, supportive support to it. And then building village supports. And really what that means is making sure that not only do people have someone to talk to, but that this is not just in the first few weeks of recovery that we're coming in and providing meal support, but that support continues beyond just those first few weeks of recovery. And making sure that we create a smooth system of care that anytime folks are ready to get the support, that they're welcomed with warm, open arms. And so ultimately, the take-home point here is that healing happens in community. So I'll invite my colleague, Dr. Terry, to lead you through the next part of this exercise, but thank you all for your time.
I was waiting for my amazing introduction. Yes,
I know. I was looking at the script, I was like, all right, but then you took care of it. And then I was like, all right. Here we go. But first, thank you, Dr. King. I want to also recognize that you told a story. How did it make you feel? How was telling that story? Scary. Do you normally start many of your speeches with that? This is your first time telling your story?
Yeah.
Did you guys find that to be... Not that I want to look down on the second half of your speech, but I think the second half of the speech worked because of the first part.
Yeah, that's right.
Because now we care about you. We always would. We care about all humans, but this is what I think the power of story, when it became about you and we saw your family and the generation, then we want to know everything. And that's the power of it. And so I just thank you for sharing it and taking that risk. I hope you feel that it was cathartic, not just for them, but also for you. Now to you. If you remember from last year, she's fire. I don't feel like you should need an opening.
but I do.
But you do. It's fair. fair. She deserves it. Dr. Terry Davis is a licensed clinical psychologist, founder of the Imani Project, and a powerful advocate for Black maternal mental health.
Hold on, a license.
License. Are there fake ones out there? Let's not get started. TikTok therapists? No. Absolutely. Do you have a TikTok account? Good. Don't start it. Agreed. Just 2 weeks ago, she co-hosted a hugely successful Black Maternal Mental Health Summit. And as you know, last year she was our favorite. We are so grateful to have, I'm not supposed to play favorites. I will. Please, make it loud so that we can please welcome our favorite, Dr. Terry Davis. I have to get permission. Camera guy told me I'm not allowed to share my microphone. Can I give her the microphone?
Oh, we can't
You
today.
get permission. Yeah. Woo!
I'm from backwoods Oklahoma. Y'all know? Does y'all know what that is? Hey, it's black people in Oklahoma, y'all. Can I get the light still? Can I get the light still? Can I get the light still? Can someone? Y'all want me to do it? Can I get the light still? Okay. I'd like you to just come into the room. Are you here? Come to the room. You know, Dr. King, thank you so much for giving this amazing context and for your stories. All of you have a story. So I want you just to come into the room. I had some music to play, but didn't get that going, so let's come into the room. So the Imani Project is my nonprofit, and we see all we do is therapy. All we do. We do a lot of work in the IE, LA. We have done 600 sessions with moms in 6 months. So that storytelling is amazing. I'd like you to think about something that Dr. King said, is many of our mothers are pregnant and postpartum healing inside of families that are broken. What we said a couple weeks ago with Black Girls Mental Health Foundation, where are you? Love you, girl. I'm still tired, y'all. For our conference. What we wanted to make sure that came through is that we do have a broken healthcare system. We do. We got a broken government, but move on. Move on. Who said that? But we have broken families also. What we wanted to bring forth is that we probably don't talk enough about the environments for which this healing is happening. Good job. Hello? So with our conference, we made that clear. If you're going to talk about maternal mortality, you have to really talk about what challenges our pregnant women are going through in their families and the system. There are two. Where do you think mental health symptoms, depression, isolation, ruminating thoughts, abuse, domestic violence, who sees those symptoms first? Not your primary care. The people who you, okay, and some of those systems are broken. So I want to take a moment here. Can we just come into the room? And we're going to do a little grounding by putting yourself in the shoes of a mother you know. We all do amazing work. A mother you singing, maybe the shoes that you once walked in. You ready? Okay. All right. If you would, we're in a safe space here. Is it safe in here, y'all? It's not safe outside, but it's safe right here. Okay, come on. Okay, close your eyes. It's all right. It's okay. And I'd like you to imagine that you are sitting next to your younger self. Your younger self. Or You're sitting next to a mother that needs healing. A mother that needs healing. Can you just come in the room a minute? Now, right here. Hear nothing. Just stay with me. Here. There are things that our mothers are going through. Did you know that the mother sitting next to you, maybe the younger self that you're sitting next to, has suffered from some sort of the issues? That they were not supported. You may have not been supported. Some of you are sitting next to someone that has had to suffer in silence. Can you hunch your back a little bit? Just let the weight of the world on your shoulders. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. Just come into the room. Let the weight of the world rest on your shoulders. Do you feel that weight? That's what our mothers are struggling to heal from. That sadness, that anxiety. Do you know that many of our mothers do not know how to speak up for themselves? And that silence started in our families. They're perpetuating in our families. All of you have had some experience where you didn't feel like you could speak up. Do you know how that may compromise someone's care? How that has compromised you? So I want you to sit for a moment. In this moment, can you say something to your younger self that needed more? Someone ignored you. Someone didn't care about what you were going through. Some people did not know what to say to you. Our mothers are struggling the same way. Put yourself there. Now, not all mothers are struggling, but if we know that depression, anxiety is one of the predictors of maternal mortality, you also know that someone saw that verse. It was not their doctor. Someone said, you know what, it's not that bad, and it was. Someone said, you need to move on. Nope. My mama died 6 years ago, baby. I haven't not moved on. You understand? I look good, but I have not. So, the biases that we have in our families is contributing to some of this pain. Pain into power. But you know, we're going to talk about the pain first. There is pain. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Drop your head a little bit lower. Come on, drop it. Come on. Bring the wall down. Can you bring the wall down? Bring the wall down a little bit. Bring it down. Because see, when we're working with our mothers, do you know that some of you are the only support that they've got? Did you know that? Come on, drop your guard. Just come on with me. We're safe. Let's drop your guard now. I want you to hear the silence. Hear the silence. That is the silence that some of our mothers are living in. So before they even touch the healthcare system, they had been ignored. You had been ignored. Our country is ignoring people right now. Can you imagine? Hear this silence. Now, I'm going to ask you in your mind to tell something to that mother. Something you've already said to mothers that you see. Do you know that our mothers do not come to therapy talking about the health care system of injustice? It is there. But they're talking about abuse. They're talking about people not caring. They're talking about people who left them. They're talking about their experiences in a bad relationship. Hold on. Hold on. Some of that isolation is from being in relationships that are not helpful. Come on, we're just putting, we'll focus on the pain today. And in time, we're helping them become power. Hold on a second. Hear this silence, okay? I'd like you to say something, whisper what you would say to a mother struggling. Because see, the healthcare system is struggling, but we are too. Our mothers are. The healthcare system needs work, but you know that's not where their suffering started. It's not. We have to have these conversations. So on 3, gonna ask for the lights to come on again. Maybe a couple. And I'd like you to right now come back to the room and give me some power. This is your hope. Allow yourself to stand tall. That feeling right there, we went from and we said, no, stand up. That's what you're trying to get others to do. And they cannot do it by themselves. It takes the policymakers. It takes government. It takes you. It takes you listening better. Okay. And I'm going to add some brave souls here because it takes a lot to deal with pregnancy. It takes a lot to deal with families. It takes a lot to deal. It's a lot right now. Please know that your role is the health that stand call. So in this moment, can a few of you share what you were feeling? Because it's the feelings that are being ignored. We've got a family systems problem. We do. We do. All right. Can you share with me? Yeah. I love your tears, but stop telling people to stop crying. Stop. No. Cry a river. You better. I used to want to be a talk show host. Here we go.
When being Korean, I had a pregnancy walk before, and but I took for my best friend's sister, and she had walked 2 children since she birth, and she had pregnancy walk, and I feel like I wasn't bold and have Bible feeling out of comparison, or her losses that I haven't been through as much, and I never told my stories out loud to encourage to see like as much as I wanted.
Oh my God. I would, you know what she said was, y'all heard what she said? How we do unfair comparisons that because you didn't go through, look, I wish somebody tell me that losing my mom ain't the same as losing something. I wish somebody tell me that. Your pain matters. And I'm sorry that you thought it did because it does. Well, that's it though. Come on.
It was hard for me to talk to that little self because right now I work with those that know me. Hello, I'm Yvonne Nettle, Baker, and I work with children that's nonverbal and verbal, and so autistic students. And I had to make the hardest decision to record about one of my students being in pain. Some of them, with children with autism, they always have routine. So, ooh, I'm hurting, ooh, I'm aching. And I kept seeing him in pain. He didn't want to leave out of class. And when I told his parents, they kept saying that it was a disability. And I said, no. And when I left he's big on birthday. So before I left to go on cruise with my family, I wanted to celebrate with him because birthdays are very important. And so he said, Miss Nels, you gonna get cake and ice cream and pizza? And I said, yes. And when I came back, I noticed he came to the classroom, and I'm with Resource. So I work for all children from kinder through 5th grade. When I walked in, I noticed his lip. If he would bite his lip because he was in pain. And so he began to have an infection in that lip. And it was turning like purple. So I immediately went downstairs and went to the nurse and told them to call the parents. The parents did a translator. And I told them, please take it back, stop. I know that he had leukemia. He's one of my 5th graders. And he's been in the hospital. So what we did was we made him, I told him we got to do a color book. We got to do a birthday of our pictures on there because this is going to make him happy. And this is his 5th grade year. And I've been talking to the attorney because today is his IEP. My Chris will know where I'm at. And sometimes I don't take a step for me first. And my colleague was like, this is my student. You go and you shop for Anthony. And for me, I called Kathy. I was like, okay, you still think you should get it? And then I walked in. She was like, you look pretty and yellow. So when she gave me a compliment, everybody called me sunshine at work. So I was like, I'm representing the shell and I represent my baby. Because I could talk to that inner person. I could talk to me. And I feel like I had to be that person, that boy, those that can't speak up for themselves, and mothers that work, have children with disability. It's challenging and it's hard. And now they all on social media posting children being abused to their parents and stuff. And a lot of times these babies, they inner person, their bodies, they can't express what they truly feel. And so if you guys know of any mothers or any babies that deal with autism or just disabilities, let them know there's people out there that genuinely care. And I am one of those that genuinely care and love them with my big heart. I love them, and I just pray for that community. So I'm sorry.
Oh, no, don't feel like I love this. We have one more. Okay. Oh, here we go. I love these tears. Yes! You know, therapy love here.
I sat with myself in the towel first, and then I overwhelmingly felt the generational emotional heartache from myself to my mother to my grandmother. My grandmother, she has lost a child. My mother just lost a child. I lost 3 children in 1 year. As I'm almost 2 years postpartum, and I just stopped breastfeeding. So all the emotion, it felt like I ancestrally transcended in sorrows and hate from one cut to another, overflowing with pain that I still see my mother and grandmother go through. And although I'm very mentally and emotionally intelligent, I noticed that my support system is so much stronger than what they had. And so ich needed. And without that, without acknowledging and going through the waves of healing, I was doing something differently to break the generational curse. And it doesn't feel good, but it's very needed. It's healing my inner child to see my child grow up to baby and give her something different that my mother or my grandmother had. And I needed to set it back for that. Thank you.
That's so exact. We have a job to do. This issue of maternal mortality may not be solved all the way through policy. It may not. It's gonna be grassroots. It's gonna be you, it's gonna be me, it's gonna be our field leaders, it's gonna be policyholders. All I'm asking is when you're working with these mothers, that you really work with these mothers. That you allow them to tell. You have to be a therapist too, to hear these stories. You hear them every day. When you hear them care, and they may be the only person that's ever told you that story. That story counts. You feel me? Yeah. No. Do you feel me? Yeah. What I'm saying? Yeah. Okay. I love y'all. I love y'all. I love your stories. I love tears more than anything. And I have the tissues. Look up. Therapists comes to places make people cry with us. Okay? We're gonna have an amazing day of storytelling and real healing. Okay?
Yeah. Keep it going for our headliner, Dr. Terry. Okay. Takes off her shoes. Are you kidding? And do, honey. Of course. Okay. We're moving into the next segment that I do think that Dr. Terry kicked us off perfectly for, which is some very deep storytelling. Again, I do want to say we're about to openly share and talk about some pretty traumatizing things. As a comedian myself, I make jokes about hard stuff. I do that. And it's been interesting when I facilitate a room and I'm making a really dark joke. Sometimes it's triggered people. And so it's weird. It's like a heckling situation where they're like, no, don't keep saying it. I'm like, well, my healing is through talking about it this way. But I genuinely want to respect that the content you're about to see may be really emotional. So if there is anything that is too much for you, please feel free to step out, take a breath, because I want to have a safe space for these stories. I've had the honor of working in this capacity where I take traumatic stories and I turn them into advocacy and change. I started off as a kid who came from a traumatic childhood. And I ended up doing a one-woman show on it. And what I thought was going to be, a very narcissistic experience. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna get to be on stage and talk about it. And I was like, that was 100%. I was like, I wanna be a comedian. I wanna do something. What am I gonna talk about? What I didn't realize was that I was really genuinely doing some sort of an art therapy, unbeknownst to me, in my early 20s. And working your story, you get to navigate and pace your own healing through rediscovering the story. But when you share it, something else happens and the power shifts, because then you've given your cathartic experience to someone else. And I don't know if any of you watched any of those people up there and went, aha. Oh, it's not just me, I'm not alone. So you don't know who you're touching, and when you risk to tell a story, sometimes there's someone in the audience who gets to have a message and feel completely seen. So last year, I was asked to host this, and there was a story that I have been scared to tell. I wasn't going to tell it, and I thought, last year, I'm going to tell it at this one. I'm going to tell the scariest story that I have been too ashamed to tell anyone. And I got up here and I changed my mind. I did. I didn't do it. And it stuck with me. But it's my most private, personal. If I tell this story and I tell you what I did, I will be ruined. I will be. I don't even think my child, if she knows what happened, I don't think she'll forgive me. That's too much shame. I can't say it, and I don't know if she remembers it. So I didn't tell it. Flash forward, I've been working with maternal mental health now, and I started a program called Storyectomy, Get Your Story Out, right? And I have done it for 3 years now. At my play, I own a comedy club called The Crow, and I would do a storytelling experience where we would get 10 strangers together that all have a common theme, right? So I joined with maternal mental health now, and we did baby bumps. So 10 strangers would get together in a room, and I'd say, we all have some sort of maternal mental health story. What is it? We're gonna do a 6-week class. We're gonna meet once a week for 3 hours on a Tuesday night up in my little tiny comedy club in Santa Monica. And these strangers are gonna come together and they're gonna share, we all have very different maternal mental health stories, but we're gonna get really raw and really vulnerable, and we're all gonna start on a blank page. And 6 weeks from now, we're gonna take these stories and I'm gonna give you joke structures. And I'm gonna tell you how to do, like legitimately turning the pain into funny, which I find is powerful. But also not just stand-up, getting down and dirty with the vulnerability and hitting those deep moments as well, because that's what I think storytelling can do. I know my time's up. I'm gonna abuse I'm gonna tell the story, I'm so sorry. And then I'm gonna give it to you. So remember that story I didn't tell last year. So now I've got my 3rd storyectomy cohort. I have 10 strangers in front of me. This is just a few months ago, okay? And there was a part of me that wondered if I should, maybe if I'm gonna ask these 10 strangers to be completely vulnerable for 6 weeks, how dare I not start? How could I not go first? If I'm gonna create something, I better be as authentic as I'm saying I'm going to do. So I said, normally, I never tell this story, can I? I'm so scared, I've never told it out loud. And these 10 strangers said yes. I can't believe I am going to tell it. It's not that big of a deal because I didn't know if I should, and then you get that sign, and we saw Monet's story. I too have a similar story that I have been scared to tell. I really wanted a baby. I really wanted a girl. No offense to boys. They're great. They're wonderful. But all I wanted was a girl. I got that beautiful girl, and she sucked. Horrible, that was it, and I told that story all the time. I was like, she's colicky, she's the worst. My postpartum depression isn't because of me, it's because she was the problem. Okay, because then I had a second baby, and I had a boy, and he was so easy, and I was like, see, it's her fault. It's not me, it's her. The story that I was too scared to tell everyone was that my postpartum was so bad that when she was 5 years old, and now I had this other little baby who was easy, the rift between my daughter and I got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was getting to a point where I was like, this is not, similar to Monet's story, this is not the mother I'm supposed to be. I dreamed about being a mother. Why am I having this disconnect with my daughter? What has happened? And it got so bad that I was like, I need to get some therapy. I'm going to go through my insurance. I have an HMO. Let's see what therapist I get. I go to a therapist, and I walk in, and the first thing I say to her is, are you a mom? Are you married? Are you a mom? And she's like, nope, I'm single, I'm in my 50s, I'm so happy, I would never have kids, what's up? I'm like, oh my God, I feel like we're really on the wrong foot. And I was like, I don't think you understand. Like, my daughter is so bad, I want to throw her out the window. Like, it's so terrible. I can't even get her to brush her teeth. I legit, every single night I have to, and I'm like, I think that I'm required to brush your teeth. This feels like part of the deal. And I'm sitting there holding her mouth and trying to brush her teeth. That's what I'm supposed to do. And I completely unload to this woman. And she goes, do you think you're depressed? I was like, I am not depressed. I am dealing with a bad child. It is not me. How many times is it is her? And I go home, and 2 days later, my phone rings. And the therapist says, I just want to let you know I have reported you to CPS. It was one of those thoughts where I was like, is this HMO? If I had paid privately with this woman had called me out, what is the system doing? And I don't know who to trust. And I don't know if you know what CPS, when that happens, it's It's an actual nightmare. And then you don't want to tell anyone, and then I don't know how to survive this. And it was the most shame, and I couldn't tell anyone, and I had to have my child interviewed, and the police come, and your pediatrician, and apparently now the dentist. Thank you. And I didn't know how I was going to survive this, and somehow I did. And we got through it, and it was horrible. And I said to these 10 strangers in this room, I finally said, I am someone who CPS came to investigate. And I'm scared if my daughter even holds this memory. I did find another therapist. I went to extreme therapy for 5 years. She was now 10, and I have this huge breakthrough with her. And all of a sudden, like, he was great. I got through it. I'm trying to speed through this because she was like, your time was up 5 minutes ago. So I have this breakthrough with my daughter to the point at which, not like I just like want to brag, she and I are the best, okay? She is obviously who I was supposed to have in my world. This is my hero. I cannot believe it. Now, when I had been going through this previously, right when I had her, I counted. I looked it up, how many weeks till she goes to college. I did, and at that time I put it in, her birthday, March 20th, till she's 18. I'm assuming she's gonna graduate and it'll be around August 20th. It said 936. 936 Saturdays until I could get rid of this kid. But now here I am, bonded with this child, and you're never gonna believe this. She just turned 18. I'm a survivor! Can postpartum count for 18 years? Forever. So here she is, and I tell this group of my 10 strangers in my storyectomy class, I go, you're not gonna believe this. Right now, in the middle of this group, she just turned 18 and she's going off to college, and my 936 Saturdays have dwindled down into just a few singles. And I'm freaking out, and now I don't want her to go. And the women in this group, they said to me, you know, Nicole, at the end of this thing, we're doing this 6-week workshop. I want you to get up on that stage and tell this story. And I said, no, we're doing the storytelling for you. I'm not going to tell the story. I'm here to work your story. 6 weeks go through, and Mandy in the group with an IE, she makes it very clear, Mandy with an IE. She says, Nicole, tonight is the night of stories. Will you please tell yours? And I said, Mandy, no. You're telling your story along with the other 9 people. And she said, that's not fair. We won't do it without you. And she was like, do you need a sign? And I was like, I need a sign. You'll find one. 20 minutes to showtime. I open up my phone. What I haven't told anyone is that throughout this process, my aunt had died. And she left me a house. Yeah, I went from rags to riches. I don't want to brag, but like I'm gonna tell you guys, oh my God, house living, so much better than apartment living. Wow, amazing. But anyways, I get this house, and it closes on the weekend and the day of this show. And it comes through, and I see the email 20 minutes before I go on stage. And do you know what my address is? And I hadn't even realized it. 936. Wow. 936. So I got up there and I told my story. And it changed me. And getting to see Monet's story was the next, I was like, I'm not gonna tell that story. I need you to know we have to talk about it. So let's hold space and let's hear your stories. Let's be vulnerable together because you never know who needs to hear it. Shall we? So some of you have submitted, you're gonna be able to, we're gonna take some random people coming up here, but we did pre-vet a few. So it's always nice. I do love my stand-up comedy crew, and so it's nice to always start with a powerful storyteller and comedian herself. I've had the honor of getting to work with her before. She has a special that's going to be coming out, her one-woman show, which is based completely all about all the things that we're going to hear today. So to have a little snippet of a beautiful story, please welcome to the stage, DeHaley Hall.
Thank you, Nicole. Hug for you. Hi, everybody. Oh, so great to be here. Yes, my name is DeHaley. I think Nicole would have, if we weren't friends, would have struggled with that. It's funny. It's funny because my parents actually were going to call me Africa, but not just in English, but the French version, which would have been a freak. So you would have been like, welcome a freak. Everybody, here's a freak. So DeHaley Hall, I'm sharing a table with maternal mental health now, and I'm so thrilled. I'm doing something called Pain into Punchlines, where if you're ready for that part of your journey where you want to take some of the pain that you've gone through and find the humor behind it, I feel like that has been the only way for me to process grief, process pain. And, I'm a comedian, a television writer, a filmmaker, and Spadura is the comedy special that's going to be coming out in the fall about my journey trying to get knocked up. And, when you're trying to get knocked up, like, mothers love to come out the woodwork to tell you, being a mom is the best and the hardest job in the world. But you just gotta relax and trust the process, okay? No matter how long it takes, just relax, relax, relax. And it could take years, your life savings. It could destroy your marriage, your body, and self-esteem. But relax, relax, relax. It's so worth it. It's really intense. And I was trying to relax, trying to remember it was so worth it. And I would get these ridiculous moments where people were trying to be helpful. Like when one of my girlfriends of the same age, she was like, you know how I got pregnant? I just did doggy style. Ma'am, if that worked, we'd have a whole litter of kids by now, okay? And so I'm a Buddhist, and my practice is about turning poison into medicine. A lot of the pain, this is exactly what we're talking about here, pain into power. The things, those nettles that Dr. King was talking about earlier, they can actually be of value to you. And the universe was like, you want a comedy career so bad, here's some infertility, write some jokes about that. And I did. I made Spadura. And when people have seen the show and seen the film, they've been like, how do you do that? The things that you were talking about were so hard. When I started Spadura, I knew 6 Black women in my life who had to get hysterectomies. After the 2 years of touring it and then filming it, I knew 16. And I still found a way to bring in that information, but still allow people to laugh through that pain. Because sometimes it can be very hard to take in information and feel like you're going to be triggered and not have a release on the other side. And that is why I developed Pain into Punchlines, this workshop. And a few weeks ago, on Mother's Day, I decided to do it. Because Mother's Day can be very triggering for people. There is no card in the Mother's Day aisle for it's complicated, okay? There's not, I checked, there's not. And so I was like, y'all, if you want a place to land on Mother's Day on May 10th, and that's not a brunch spot, come over here. I'll have mimosas. We will make jokes together. And I tell you, friends, I'm doing the breathing exercise. I have like a balloon breathing exercise. I love it. It's so good. It's deep, and I'm blowing this balloon. And then I realize that there's a full-on leak in the event space that I'm doing in. And then my balloon pops during their meditation exercise, and I realize, oh my gosh, this is so perfect. The water broke at my Pain into Punchlines Mother Day edition. It was perfect. It was really perfect. And so anyway, I can't wait to talk to you all. You can find me over there in Table 7. I have a mini workshop with the Maternal Mental Health Conference in October. And I'm so honored to be with Dev, with Nicole, with all of you. So before I leave, I just want to also say this together. Relax, relax, relax. It's so worth it. Thank you so much.
Keep it going for DeHaley.
Also, can we cancel Mother's Day? Can we just all agree? Because the truth is, yes, my children, I can't expect them for 24 hours to be so nice. It's asking too much, so let's just stop, okay? Because it just leads to problems. I almost divorced my son. Okay, next up. We have an author, an advocate, and a partner with Return to Zero Hope, one of today's sponsors. Inspired, hold on, I have to turn my page. Inspired by experiences with her own perinatal loss, Eileen has helped create spaces for remembrance, healing, community for grieving families. Please welcome to the stage, hold on, Eileen Rosette. Oh yes, you can use that one. Absolutely.
Hello. I'm a whole different vibe. So I'm the author of the book To Tend and to Hold, Honoring Our Bodies, Our Needs, and Our Grief Through Pregnancy and Infant Loss. I wear quite a few hats. I'm a survivor of perinatal loss. I'm a mother to 3 living children. I am a therapist, a family therapist, a certified grief educator, a postpartum doula, and I am also a volunteer with the Bartesi, Return to Zero. My first pregnancy experience was very idyllic. Conceiving was easy. The gestation was just fine. I gave birth without medication to my daughter, Celine. Then I experienced 2 pregnancy losses after her. And I wanted to share a little bit about Celine's birth because it helped me to know in my experiences of pregnancy loss that I was giving birth. I was given medication in the first instance to self-administer at home. And my doctor, who was amazing, great bedside manner, really held space for me. And in hindsight, I realized it would have been helpful if she had framed it as, you're gonna go home, you're gonna give birth. And I knew what birth had felt like the first time. So I knew in the midst of that first experience of pregnancy loss what was happening, and I was able to tell myself, oh, you're giving birth right now, you're having contractions. Fast forward, 2018, I was living in Santa Monica, and I had this vision come to me. A small group of women standing at night under a full moon. Someone referenced this kind of imagery where natural birthing, right? Dr. King, I think you did. So the vision of a small group of women standing around a small body of water, like a pond. It's nighttime, full moon. They were looking at the water, at candles floating. There was a candle for each of their losses and a candle for each of them. That was a vision that came to me, and I felt like I really wanted to see that in my life, and it happened. I hosted a number of what I called Our Womb Loss events, these elevated dining experiences with a personal chef and beautiful homes in LA, because I wanted other women to know that you deserve to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel held, because these losses happen in our bodies or soon after we give birth. And in hosting those dinners, I came to know I wanted to capture the essence of those gatherings in a book so that women all over the world and birthing people all over the world could feel what we felt, to feel seen, heard, and held. And I'd like to read a short excerpt. Late one night, years after experiencing my womb losses, I came across an online essay by Mother Ree that shifted something deep inside me. In this powerfully heartfelt and heartbreaking letter from a mother to her unborn child, the author writes, The English language refers to the incident as a quote-unquote miscarriage. The Filipino and Bicol languages, on the other hand, labeled me as a woman with an unborn child, as nakunan, nakwanan. These roughly translate into someone from whom something was taken away. The moment I read this, it was as if time stopped. Despite being the daughter of Filipino immigrants, immersed in the sounds of my family's mix of English and Tagalog, these terms were new to me, and yet these words spoke to a deep truth within me. My doctors and midwives reassured me that, as with the majority of early pregnancy losses, my losses were likely due to chromosomal abnormalities and therefore beyond my control. Yet part of me still carried feelings of remorse, since it was my body that had been carrying these pregnancies, and because it was my body, it seemed there was more I could have done. The language used to describe my kind of loss seemed to imply as much, and that the onus lay solely with me, especially with the prefix mis, which means wrongly or badly. Miscarriage, miscarried, lost. I had a miscarriage. I miscarried. I lost my babies. As if I had made a mistake when I had a miscarriage, as if I had done something wrong when I miscarried, as if I had been irresponsible or absent-minded when I lost my babies, as if they could be found if I just tried hard enough, even though they were in my body all along. When I found this essay, or when it found me, I sat staring at it for a long moment, and in that pause, the part of me that carried remorse came to the surface. She read and reread those 3 sentences, awed that such words existed to describe her, awed by what felt like a gentle reframing of her loss. She too was nakunan. I too was nakwanan. In these words, we felt seen, we felt known, and with that, we felt relief as the edges of our remorse softened. I was and am someone with unborn children. I was and am someone from whom something was taken away. These words from the languages of my ancestors found me and held me when my native tongue seemed to blame me. It was a powerful, quiet moment that left a deep impression.
You're a natural comedian. Her opening line was amazing. The mood switch, give it up for Eileen. That's great. We have the next person, Marie Rivera, who many of you may remember from the Imperfect Mothers Club. Marie has become a powerful advocate for perinatal mental health justice throughout Los Angeles County, courageously sharing her story to help break stigma and support other families. After Marie, we'll also briefly hear from her mother, offering a power intergenerational perspective on caregiving, healing, and family support. Please welcome Marie. Do you want?
Okay.
Whichever one you want.
Look, I'm a student, so I'm used to being right in center. Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. It's so great to be taking space with you again for the second time, hopefully. For others, for the first, welcome. I'm Marie Rivera. My story starts at 18. I decided with my husband that we wanted to have babies. I was told by my doctor that I had some pre-existing medical conditions that made that a little bit difficult. It was 8 miscarriages before I conceived my daughter. And again, I went into this pregnancy extremely thankful because of all of the loss that I had experienced prior. I was really sick for a long time within my first pregnancy. Of course, I was told by my doctor that this was normal and that I had the weight to lose, so that I would be fine. So the 64 pounds that I lost within my pregnancy was normal because, again, I was heavy and I had the extra weight that I didn't need. My birth was extremely traumatic. Nobody was ready for me. There were no residents, doctors available. So I was physically pushed on my back by the nurse and was told to stop pushing, to stop listening to my body. And I was getting yelled at, like, nobody's ready for you. I cannot deliver this baby. I'm a nurse. It was amazing. It was great. When the doctor finally came in and was like, everybody stop. When you need to push, you push. I got her out in 3 pushes, right? So I just needed some support. Didn't get that. That's okay. I felt disassociated. Nobody told me that could happen. Nobody told me that a traumatic birth could lead up to a disassociated feeling. They put my daughter on me, and what other women have talked about, feeling instantaneous love and affection, I didn't have. I didn't feel. And I could not recognize that in that moment. In that moment, I was more like, I have a human being, and now here it comes. I need to take care of her. And then the lactation specialists came in, the lactation nurses, who continuously were peer pressuring me into breast is best. Your baby's gonna suffer. You need to breastfeed. My daughter was born at 10 o'clock in the morning. It was until 7 p.m. that my mom finally intervened with my daughter being hysterical for several hours, and was like, you need to give her the bottle now because this baby has not eaten anything and she's suffering. I don't think that it clicked with my mom just yet what that experience led for me. It was 3 months after I came home that I finally was like, Mom, something's wrong with me. I could not be left alone with my daughter. I couldn't. They were like, oh, you're home. She's so cute. You take her. Oh, you love the way she's dressed today. You take her. I didn't know what was wrong. I didn't have my understanding of postpartum prior to me getting pregnant with my own experience was that postpartum looked like a mother trying to harm their child, having an intent to harm their child. I didn't have the language. I didn't have the education. I am Mexican American. In my culture, you do not talk about mental health. You go and talk to God. You pick yourself up and you get strong and you keep going. There is no mental health, right? That's my first experience. Amazing. Second experience, my second pregnancy. I got diagnosed with hyperemesis. I lost 78 pounds. I was pregnant during COVID and went through the whole pregnancy isolated. I was sent home from the ER 3 times, even though I told them I could not eat, could not drink anything. 78 pounds I lost that time. And doctors didn't care. It took one nurse one day, who was a mother herself, that was like, this is not normal. Let's get you on home care. I found out that my ketone levels were so severe, my daughter was eating my bones for about 2 weeks. Yeah, so it took me 3 months of home care to stabilize. I like sharing my story side by side with my pregnancies because I like to really reflect that spectrum of perinatal mental health that we're talking about, right? It happened for me postpartum with my first one. And it was triggered by other people continuously pushing breast is best. My second, I was prepared because I got postpartum the first time and I was like, we're not doing it again. Nobody told me it can happen during pregnancy, guys. Nobody was like, hey, you can get depressed. On the day that I came home, it was the second day of home care. My husband set up the bath. And I remember looking at him and pleading with him, please walk out the door. Give me 15 minutes alone because I want to die. I'm done. My daughter is better off without me. You're better off without me. I cannot bring this baby into this world. I don't have the strength. I don't have it in me. And of course he didn't. And I'm happy that he didn't. Because when I gave birth to my second, I didn't get postpartum. And holding her and finally experiencing what all these women that I have met in my life tell me, they put that baby on you and it fixes you, and she did. So I'm here today sharing my story because, again, we have things that happen not universally, right? Every woman's story is different, but our struggle is the same. So thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you. And if I can, Nicole, it would really be an honor for me to introduce my mother, Alma, who is also here to share her story today. So thank you so much. You got this. You got it. We can do 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 it.
It really pisses me off to hear your story because I work for children's services. When I got pregnant the first time, I didn't know all of this was happening to me. It was through the courage of my daughter to come and talk about this that I realized that I suffered postpartum depression as well. Mine was very severe because I was having homicidal thoughts. I wanted my baby to stop crying. I didn't know how to take care of her. The people that were there trying to help me, I didn't want the help. I wanted the help. And her coming over and telling me, Mom, you gotta do this. I talked to my former supervisor, and she warned me, do you wanna put your career on the line? Do you want your clinical skills to be questioned? Because I wanted to share my story, but I'm scared. It's still shameful. We're judged, and it really angers me that our department still to today is so insensitive. I've been with the department for 33 years, and I've worked with my families to make sure that anything that I felt, I would help them. But you made me, I was sitting there crying hearing your story, because it sucks. This is not something that, when we need help, why aren't we helping? Why do we still continue to shame it and you're a bad parent? No, we're not. We just need the support. So thank you guys. That's my story. I'm scared, but I don't care anymore.
Thank you. See, so yeah, I guess I'm glad I shared too. I have a script to read, but thank you. I don't know. I always feel like, why are they asking me to do this? I never quite understand it. So, thank you.
So we've had a really incredible morning, and we now have heard all these great stories. There'll still be more. But at this point, what do we do next? How do we take all this and lead it to change within the system? So this next panel is going to explore the real systems change and what it can look like from South LA all the way to the State House, and how storytelling, survivor leadership, and healthcare systems, community partnerships can work together to build something better. Can't think of a better person than to guide this conversation than Gabrielle Brown, Director of Maternal and Infant Health Initiatives at Black Women for Wellness, founding partner at CPWA, and a powerful advocate for birth justice and community systems change. Please join me in welcoming Gabrielle Brown.
Okay. Thank you all again for being here and for holding space with us throughout today's conversation. We've heard very powerful stories of survival, advocacy, frustration, resilience, and love. And while each story is deeply personal, together they reveal something much larger about the systems families are navigating every day. This next conversation is an opportunity for us to move from story to systems, because this is not only about raising awareness, it's about understanding what families actually experience in real life, where the breakdowns occur, why people continue falling through the cracks, and what it will take for us to build something better together. What we know is this: not one single person, organization, or institution can solve these challenges alone. Real change requires coordination across community spaces, clinical systems, public health infrastructure, policy leadership, and lived experience. It requires us to stop working in silos and start building systems that are responsive, connected, culturally grounded, and accountable to the people they are meant to serve. So today's panel will help us explore two critical questions. What are these stories revealing about the failures within our system? And equally important, what can we begin building right now? Before we begin, I'd love to invite each of our panelists to briefly introduce themselves, their name, role, and connection to this work or lived experience. So I would love to start with you, Cassie.
Already. I'm Cassie Gardner-Manchikian, founding director of CPWA.
I am Kimberly Gray. I'm the Director of Perinatal Mental Health Equity with Maternal Mental Health Now. I come to this space through my own lived experience through pregnancy loss with a particular interest on supporting Black families and Black perinatal providers, continuing to uplift this work through the voice of community.
Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Rohit Pasi. I'm the Chief of Neonatal Perinatal Medicine for Kaiser Permanente South Bay Medical Center, and I'm also the physician leader for equity, inclusion, and diversity for Kaiser Permanente. I must say that I come here with, this is my second time coming, and I come here with many intersectionalities of my life, not just as a physician leader, as a neonatologist, but also as an immigrant, also as a father, also as a husband. And I must say that whatever I discuss today and explain is based on my own learnings as a physician and do not represent official statements of Kaiser Permanente. Thank you.
Hi everyone. We're going to keep you awake after that lunch, I promise. I'm so excited. It's so lovely to see you all again. I am Elise Springer. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, founding board member for PSI California, and serve as the current co-chair for Policy and Advocacy Committee. And I will pass it back down to Cassie.
Thank you. You all are so amazing. And so, as we move into the discussion, I really want to ground us in the reality that families are often navigating fragmented systems during some of the most vulnerable moments of their lives. And while the stories may sound a bit different, many point back to the same recurring challenges. On the screen, you'll see several themes that consistently emerge: screening gaps, referral breakdowns, lack of coordination, cultural disconnect, fear and stigma, fragmented systems of care. These are not isolated issues, they are patterns. And so I'd like us to explore not only what's happening, but why. And so Cassie, I'd love to start with you. Through the stories that the California Perinatal Wellness Alliance has collected across the state, what patterns are emerging about where families are most often falling through the cracks?
Thanks, Gabrielle. So we've talked about it a few times today, but this is our statewide storybook of 50 stories from throughout California. And we actually collected 50 more registrations, stories, even just from today's event. So thank you all for submitting your stories. While every family's experience is unique, there's many patterns that are emerging around awareness, alignment, and action. So first, awareness. Many families and even providers don't even recognize the signs of perinatal mental health challenges very often, or don't feel safe asking for help. Second, alignment. When families do seek help, they often fall through the cracks of a fragmented system. And third, action. These challenges are absolutely preventable and treatable when community connection and coordinated support exist. So first, awareness. Many parents don't even recognize they're experiencing a perinatal mental health issue. They might thinking, I'm failing, or this is just new motherhood, or I should be able to handle this. And many providers miss the symptoms too, especially prenatal or OCD or anxiety, psychosis, or even paternal mental health. And the biggest barrier is getting help is stigma, but underneath the stigma is fear. And as we heard from Monet's story, many families, especially Black, immigrant, LGBTQ, and historically marginalized, are understandably afraid of what may happen if they disclose that their babies might be taken away. And as Supervisor Horvath said earlier, we have created systems that often prioritize reporting over supporting. And people can't advocate for care that they don't even know should exist, right? So that's why I often say perinatal mental health is a preventable public health crisis that's hiding in plain sight. Thank you. The second pattern is really around alignment or fragmentation. The 20-month period from conception to 1 year postpartum is really an intersection of racism, sexism, a fragmented healthcare system, the lack of integration between behavioral and physical health, economic stress. And so it's no wonder, because it's like families are being set up to fail. We're expected to navigate OB care, pediatrics, behavioral health, hospitals. And when families fall through the cracks most consistently is along that care pathway from screening to diagnosis to treatment and referrals and the follow-up, because screening alone doesn't equal treatment. And so across our stories, we hear about long wait lists, lack of trained providers, limited health insurance coverage, and systems that unintentionally deepen trauma. So even for my story as a postpartum psychosis story, we hear from 6 psychosis stories in here. One is who's here, flew all the way from Sacramento. Thank you, Millie. Many people found that hospitals actually make things worse and actually give you even more trauma, including psychiatric units separating mothers from newborns. So families are essentially being set up to fail. And the third pattern across the stories is hopeful, and that's action. That's why we're all here today. Again and again, we see that change becomes possible when people feel seen, supported, validated, and empowered with agency to act. And that's through groups like the Mother Board, through doulas, Black birth workers, support groups, culturally rooted spaces. And families repeatedly told us that what helped me most was finally feeling less alone. So the good news is we know a lot about what works. And this is not a lack of solutions problem. It's really about again, awareness, alignment, and action.
Wow, thank you, Cassie. I really appreciate you grounding us in the compounding of challenges patients face parents face during their perinatal journey, as well as statewide patterns and the human impact behind the data. And so next I'd like to move to Dr. Passy. From a provider perspective, where do breakdowns most often happen between screening, referral, and actually getting families connected to care?
Thank you. I believe the breakdowns really happen because the system has been built in a typical way. System has been built to take care and adopt a cookie-cutter approach, to adopt a one-size-fits-all approach. Many times systems are built to check some boxes, while we forget that there are human beings at the other side of it. Not just human beings, but diverse human beings with many multiple stories, and you just cannot have a one-size-fits-all approach. One of my favorite things I talk about is there is no quality without equity. We often focus on quality of care. There are Joint Commission, there are regulatory requirements for quality, but there is really no quality without equity. It's not a system if it doesn't work for everybody. And there's a lot of work that goes into that. Sometimes doing the right thing is often the difficult thing to do. And we often, for multiple reasons, adopt a simplistic approach to these things, and what that leads to is inequity. We have often treated these conversations and taking an individualistic approach, as a cherry on top of ice cream. It's not a cherry on top of the ice cream, it is the whole ice cream. The flavor just doesn't work without it. So having that right from the beginning in the systems incorporating it in medical education, incorporating it in the bottom-up approach is key. And our whole system has based on the backs of these inequities. Last year when I came, I talked about the story of Lucy, Betsy, and Anarka, who were 3 enslaved women on the backs of whom the surgeries and gynecological surgery was perfected. But we don't talk or teach about these things in medical curriculum. And we are kind of incentivized to take a one-size-fits-all approach. But we really need to break that. I think that's one of the main causes for where breakdowns happen. Childbirth, being a parent, is a highly stressful time. And from a personal example, when I'm in the NICU, and now on top of that, a baby is now admitted to the ICU, not just something parents expected. So now the trauma and the difficulties are multifold. And our systems are based on that acute care. You're looking at just the baby, what's happening, while negating the impact it's having on the birthing parents. So opening our eyes, taking the difficult path, but the right path, normalizing these conversations, normalizing the role of equity, and really, again, hammering on that fact that there is no quality of care without taking an equitable approach. It's not a system if it works for very few people. It doesn't work for everybody, especially the most disenfranchised. Being an immigrant myself, one other common theme I see is how different communities and immigrants also look at mental health. In my culture, stoicism is promoted. There was, I think, a study done where people were reporting low pain scales just to seem more stoic. And now, if you don't understand those backgrounds, if you don't take that extra step, you don't go a step beyond the regular checks and balances, you are going to miss these patients. So it's our duty to create those systems, to make these conversations more accessible, to make mental health care more accessible, right from the beginning, I would say even by the time you show up in an OB office talking about it's too late. It's going to go even before that even when somebody is of childbearing age or planning to have a baby, these conversations need to become a forefront. We need to come to the patient rather than expecting folks to navigate those difficult systems. And until we go there, it's going to be difficult.
Thank you, Dr. Posse. And you're right, our experiences are not one size fits all, and thank you so much for naming that. I think what's especially important in what you said is that it's important to recognize the role of equity within delivery of care and challenging the norm within the health system. Kim, bringing this conversation closer to home here in LA, where are families most often falling through the cracks locally, and what's missing between hospitals, providers, and community-based support systems?
Yeah, I think when we start to think about this, we have to look at the fact that we have community, cracks, care. So there's this pathway in terms of how we need to get to the care that's needed. And the reality is that oftentimes the system assumes access. Dr. Posse touched on this a little bit. You assume that someone is going to walk into your space, they're going to divulge all of their feelings out to you, and then boom, there's a treatment plan and care can happen. The reality is that when you're not taking into consideration the barriers of actually getting someone in the space, when we're talking about communities of color, under-resourced spaces, indigenous communities who are oftentimes very widely separated from the systems of care, and then you're thinking about what we're dealing with right now in this climate in terms of our immigrant population, there's already a distrust in the system that exists. So each one of those cracks becomes wider and wider and wider. So now you're not just looking at cracks, you're looking at gaps in the entire system. So how do we start to think about what do we do to make sure we're closing that as much as possible? And the reality is that there are community members who are already doing this work, who are already holding up that space. Many of you are actually in this room. We have birth workers, we have physicians, we have folks like Dr. Posse who are really taking into consideration what does equitable care look like. So we have to continue to bring alongside that system and really trying to not only put out what's there, but also listen. Understand what we can learn from our lived experiences. Each of us have shared many stories in this space. You see folks in this room who you work together either day to day, or how many people met a new person today in this space? Absolutely, that's beautiful to hear. And so the solutions exist within the spaces that we're in right now in our community. The problem is making that connection so the systems of care are actually soliciting, but also listening when it's said. I think the reality of saying you know what you know and you know what you don't know is very important. People are afraid to really recognize and acknowledge what they don't know. And our systems of care, particularly hospital systems, providers in the spaces, there's so much knowledge and information that they hold that they operate within that, but they're not willing to say what's missing, and they're not willing to learn about what is actually needed to make sure our care systems are actually held up. So we know that there is system dismantling that needs to happen. The reality is that we need care and we need help now, today. So we have to start thinking about, while we're addressing the dismantling of these systems that haven't served us for some time, how are we instead bridging over those cracks? How are we building out partnerships between hospital providers and communities and really working to understand how we can collaborate and work in a collective way?
Thank you, Kim. I appreciate you naming the importance of that community infrastructure piece and having those relationships with birth workers, advocates, allied clinicians that are on the grounds doing the work and not necessarily just focusing on services. Elise, California has made major progress around screening for perinatal mental health challenges, but where are families still struggling to access meaningful treatment and ongoing support once those challenges are identified?
Thank you so much. So, oh my gosh, so I know I only have a time limit, but I could take up your whole afternoon. But I'm going to tell a little bit of a story shared with permission. This is a client, a male client, and I just want to acknowledge that a lot of times we only focus on birthing person and baby, and we miss whoever the partner or dad might be. And of course, what that means is that we're only treating two legs of a stool. So if you've heard me talk before, you've heard that rant. I have to say it. It wouldn't be fair to me to sit up here and not say that otherwise. But this is a story of a dad who actually had a stillbirth. And the hospital social worker was incredibly empathetic, but did no screening of the family, right? Because we know right now we have two ABs that focus on screening in California. One of them, AB 1936, focused on screening during pregnancy and postpartum. And a lot of times the way hospitals are doing this is that they screen at discharge, right? But because this was a stillbirth, neither parent got screened, with the assumption, of course, from the hospital social worker that they were likely going to have some trauma. And you would think that there would be a warm handoff to some clinical services and support, and there was not. And while a lot of times we know in stillbirth, for example, or just infant loss in general, the whole sort of continuum, what ends up happening in a cishet couple is that mom is really struggling, she's having her own experience, and dad is the person kind of forward facing. And what ended up happening was he ended up basically having kind of a break because there was so much stress and pressure and no support, because even when mom did eventually get linked to services at a follow-up checkup with the OB, which doesn't always happen because many of you have had that experience where it doesn't happen, he did not get that connection or that warm handoff. And that is a real issue that is happening. If you can find your way to clinicians who even know that perinatal mental health exists, we all do in this room, but that is not the norm. We only have 1,450 PMHCs in the whole state. California is huge. We have 400,000 births every calendar year. That is an enormous amount of births. That's usually a couple of parents, maybe some aunties, grandmas, and cousins who are also doing some childcare, right? So one of the biggest barriers in the ways that people are falling out of care is that they don't know that perinatal mental health exists. And not just that, that's at kind of highest levels. Cassie and I have been doing a lot of work. CPWA hosted a really wonderful roundtable last month, and the amount of folks in that room who are sort of higher level stakeholders that did not know that clinicians are not trained in grad school or after getting licensed was pretty mind-blowing. Like, the whole systems of care don't know that it's not a requirement in the state. And if you heard me talk last year, you knew I was continuing to fight to kind of make that happen, and I'll update on that in a little bit. But a big factor is that the folks who are making these decisions to try to operationalize care, people who genuinely care about trying to make a difference here, they just don't know that the system is broken upstream. And there's been so many downstream approaches, like trying to regulate screening or how many times there is screening. So a hospital social worker could just rotate in on their first day on a unit and have zero training in perinatal mental health. Truly, that is possible. A Medi-Cal clinic worker at an FQHC at a federally qualified healthcare, or just at DMH in LA County, could walk in, be servicing folks with brand new babies and have zero training in perinatal mental health. And that is a big place where the breakdown happens.
Thank you, Elise, for naming these realities so clearly. And while these challenges are significant, I also want us to spend time imagining what's possible, because families deserve systems that are coordinated, compassionate, and built to actually support healing and care. And so despite the fragmentation we've discussed, there are also promising models, partnerships, and policy efforts already emerging across California. On the slide, you'll see several areas where opportunities for transformation already exist, including care coordination, provider support, community partnerships, accountability, systems alignment, leveraging technology, and innovation. So let's talk about what building better systems could actually look like in practice. And so Dr. Passy, what would stronger, more connected systems of care actually look like on the ground? And what would help providers better support families before they reach a crisis point?
Thank you. I will tie in the answer from the last discussion I was doing. I think we need to take that knowledge that it is not a one-size-fits-all approach. Take that knowledge that we live in a community. Los Angeles is a very, very diverse place. And how do we transform that knowledge into equitable systems? And one thing I'll add here is when we talk about diversity of our patients and equity, one of the things that's often forgotten is the conversation around neurodiversity. We often take into racial ethnic diversity, language spoken, other things into account. But we often end up assuming that people process information the same way. So I just want to put in a plug there for neuro-inclusive care as well. It has a personal meaning to me as a parent of a neurodiverse autistic child. And many times when we see the struggles ourselves in his care, despite being a physician, despite knowing the system, I often wonder if we have to go through this. I mean, I can't even imagine that families who don't speak English, family that might not have the resources, have to go through. This has led us to ignite that conversation in my own practice. We hosted a podcast last month within Kaiser Permanente on what neurodiverse care looks like in the medical setting. And I hope we will incorporate that in mental health as well. Because I think it ties in significantly. We have to assume that people don't think the same way. How do we look at that equitable? How do we make accommodations? To real substance of what is being done and what can be done in building an equitable system or a better system, I would bring in something controversial here, which is AI and artificial intelligence. People are talking a lot about AI. There are a lot of hesitancies around it, but I think AI might have great use in this arena. AI can do a great job in really finding the missing plugs, finding the missing information. Many times the care is received at different places in different functions. AI can really be a resource for clinicians in compiling that information. Because, the truth of life is that, I'll speak from a physician perspective. When you go into that clinic, when you are seeing your OB or seeing your provider, they are given 15 to 20 minutes, right, for that clinical appointment. And they want to do more, but their hands are tied at times. So how do we leverage AI? How do we leverage technology in helping clinicians as well as patients in kind of creating that information? A simple example could be flagging charts, right? AI could look at previous hospitalizations, previous birth history, place of residence. We know that certain zip codes. We have something called as California Healthy Places Index. I don't know if anybody has heard of that. It really looks at the disease burden. So that could flag the zip code. If somebody is from a background with that zip code, they are at a high risk for needing those resources. Maybe they need more time with the clinician as well. Other thing, I've personally used AI for my own son, because we're struggling with the school department, with the school district, with our own healthcare at times. What I've asked AI is to compile the resources and to really look over the blind spots of ourselves. We are looking for a placement, for example, and we have found immense use of AI in that arena, into thinking things we weren't thinking. So I think that can be a great resource, and leveraging technology. It is here to stay. It's not going away, AI. So how do we make it work for us? How do we make it work for systems? This can be something very concrete and actionable, which can really help transform and really help the clinicians to identify and provide resources to the patients.
Thank you for that. I know that AI is controversial, but I think that if it can improve the outcomes of parents across California, it's something to look into. And so, Elise, what would it take to build a stronger perinatal mental health workforce in California?
Oh, I have been waiting my whole life to answer this question. Well, look, a couple of things. I mean, I mentioned before, one of the things we've been doing is trying to get the licensing boards to have some requirements for perinatal mental health, right? And because the only thing that is currently in California, it is all regulated in our legislature, what goes into learning in grad school and postpartum. So a lot of the work that we've been doing over the last couple of years has been, hey, boards, before you license someone, or even in graduate school, people should probably be taught not just about human sexuality and child development, but that whole biopsychosocial span between the two. So where we are with that right now is the Board of Behavioral Sciences agreed a couple of weeks ago that they will send around a bulletin. So I'm just going to say that again. Their answer at the moment is to send around a bulletin. So as you can imagine, that is not much more than a Band-Aid. However, it's something. It's a step forward. I think my fantasy of this is that we have an Office of Perinatal Mental Health, right? And we have something called the Office of AIDS in California, and it works in the biopsychosocial realm. An Office of Perinatal Mental Health would have very similar departments, where it had a Department of Behavioral Intervention, which sort of focused not just on all the Medi-Cal managed plans, but also focused on sort of that case management, the psychiatry hotlines, that linkage to therapists. There would be screening, prevention, and treatment, right, which is sort of a little bit more self-explanatory. In HIV and AIDS, and under the Office of AIDS, there's something called ADAP, right, which is a sort of assistance program for folks who are not able or don't kind of either meet Medi-Cal or so on, who really need that extra support. And under that, we could have a perinatal, Department of Assistance, right, where it's like short-term care, linkage to kind of intermediate coverage. That's where maybe we could house that inpatient programs and those outside. The inpatient and the outpatient programs. So that Office of Perinatal Mental Health under the CDPH is my fantasy, and it's been my fantasy for about 15 years. So whenever someone asks me, like, what can we do? I'm just going to say that answer. I don't know magically how we'd ever get the money, let alone the money during this administration. But I think it would be the most practical way to kind of sort out what California's already doing, because California is trying to operationalize this. Like, there are those folks who were in that room a couple of weeks ago who understand this is a real issue, and all the data shows it. I will say we actually don't track anything about dads. So if you ever hear about maternal morbidity in the state of California in terms of suicide being leading cause, we actually have no idea about that with dads. We do not track it. The coroner's office does not even check a box if a dad dies by suicide. So again, this is something that really does need to shift in general if we're going to do the whole part of the stool to help all families be well in this space. But again, my real answer, and I just talk really fast, right? So I think I have a couple of 30 seconds, but I'm going to give it up to a co-presenter here and just say, you'll just take away the full stool, all 3 legs, right? All the parents and Office of Perinatal Mental Health. Those are our big takeaways.
An Office of Perinatal Mental Health, that sounds like an amazing idea to me. I don't know about y'all. And ultimately, development of the perinatal mental health workforce is such a critical part of this conversation because systems can only function well when people are properly supported and well equipped. And so I'd like to move to Kim. What does meaningful coordination between hospitals, providers, birth workers, and community organizations actually look like? And where are you already seeing promising models emerge locally?
Oh, that's a big question on the actually look like. I think there are lots of folks in this room who would have insight in terms of how we can work together to collaborate in that way. But what I do think by sharing some of the models that are currently working, it gives us some idea of where are the spaces that we can start to think about really implementing practice change, and then how can we scale that. I think it's one of the biggest things that we have to take into consideration right now for ourselves is like, where are the bright spots? Where are things actually happening? Where is there joy in this space and in this work? Because it can be very daunting to try to tackle all of these things at one time. But through some of our community models, we're really seeing some really effective change in the space. Some of those individuals are in this room, so I'll just name a couple of things that are happening at various levels. So peer support. If you are familiar with peer support or community health workers or promotoras in the space, so really having community-based health workers who are able to support and help navigate, particularly with families. Dr. Terry talked about this earlier, just in terms of the needs of knowing that community is oftentimes the first point of contact. Your family is often the one who sees that there's a change or a shift. So it's good to have individuals who are in the community actually interacting with families so that they can be better informed and they can have someone to help them support through navigating resources. So when hospital providers, clinics, and institutions really partner with those individuals, it creates a space for the things that we see happening within the homes, like home visitation, to actually be uplifted so we can understand what are some of the barriers and make sure that those resources are actually brought into the community. Then to Elisa's point around training, training is so critically important, not only for our licensed clinicians, but also for those who may be the first point of contact. There are training opportunities for families to be educated on how to identify, how to make sure you know where to walk with someone to actually be able to receive care. But then also our doulas, our midwives, our lactation consultants, the folks that are actually interacting with individuals on a very regular basis. How are you able to actually see and identify when a perinatal mental health condition is actually being presented? So creating those small windows of opportunities and training now helps us build towards these broader systems of mandated trainings for our physician and our providers in care. Then, of course, there is also the space of the lived experience. So I'd like to highlight and give a shout out to the motherboard, members of the motherboard who are sitting over here. Who are shaping not only their lived experience as parents walking through, but they bring such a wealth of knowledge and expertise in the space, because you have to remember we're whole human beings. So we're parents, we're mothers, we're fathers, we're birthing people, but we also come with all of these beautiful skill sets that can be used to advocate both locally and at the state level. So having the Motherboard, who is an organization of mothers who have lived experience, advocating for the community, bringing and elevating the lived experience up, and those are the individuals that we need to be talking to, those who are in close proximity to the situation, actually having conversation and saying what will work for you, what are the needs that are there. So those levels of partnerships between providers and hospital institutions is where care really starts to shift. So just having this particular place where we're thinking about how do we collaborate more concretely in this way. One of the things that I'm very excited about, because I get very excited about solutions, and I get very excited about small milestones too, because we can't forget those. If you think about our children growing up, we get excited when they do anything. We are snapping pictures, and we know that they're achieving these big steps, but these small milestones really matter. And so does the small incremental work that we're doing. It really matters. Maternal Mental Health Now is partnering with an organization called NICHQ at the national level, really starting to look at how do we reduce infant and maternal mortality, and how do we think about that, because we know that perinatal mental health is one of the leading complications. So how are we working in tandem to create solutions and change there? So we are serving as an anchor organization, working with community-based organizations within our local community to identify how can we work with a hospital institution, community-based individuals, perinatal quality collaboratives, and really start to think about one practice change that we can do to make a difference, and then how can we continue to build on that momentum. So that's something in our work that I'm really excited and looking forward to.
Thank you, Kim, for highlighting those community models, birth workers, and community-based health workers that are on the ground supporting parents navigate the systems and access to resources. It's really powerful to hear that those collaborative models already exist. They just sort of need to be expanded. Cassie, survivor-led advocacy efforts like SB 626 and the State Agency Roundtable are helping elevate these issues statewide. How are these efforts helping move the needle in California, and where do you see momentum building right now?
Thank you, and this has been such an amazing panel. I was hoping y'all would have a little AI battle here, because I know Elise is very concerned about AI replacing therapy, but I'm happy to hear we can all agree there's ways to leverage AI and technology and all the amazing solutions happening. So there's actually a lot giving me hope and inspiration right now in the perinatal mental health and justice movement. And I'm seeing momentum really across our interconnected strategies at CPWA of storytelling, systems change, and movement building. So first, survivor-led storytelling. I feel like the example of the motherboard is just the best, because when we first organized our first Pain to Power, we asked everyone in our registration to submit stories. We had 6 stories that were submitted, y'all. This Pain to Power convening, we had 70, right? So give it up to yourselves, really, because give it up to you all, because that shows that we are destigmatizing, right? And more folks are feeling more comfortable breaking the silence, sharing your stories, and the more we can elevate that, both amongst ourselves, but to the media, to legislators. I can't tell you, I tell my story every single day, and I'll walk into a meeting with a legislator who's like, perinatal mental health, what? I tell my story, she's like, oh, I had that too. And I didn't even realize it, because it was 20 years ago, and we didn't talk about it back then. Right? And that is happening in public spaces more and more. The motherboard came to Sacramento. Y'all told your stories 51 times to legislators. The next day, on the Senate health floor, Senator Valladares shared her story. And then a dad next to her who was a senator, he said, that happened to my wife too. Right? So it's a ripple effect. When we had our state roundtable, Jennifer Siebel Newsom, I'd never heard her publicly say this before. She said, I was on the phone with my mom last night talking about my mental health challenges. Governor Newsom looks over to her and says, I didn't know you went through that. Wow. That is us, okay? That is this movement creating that ripple effect, okay? That is how we move the needle. And, in terms of policy and systems alignment, that's why SB 626 and the roundtable are so important, because it's convening folks across sectors, across systems, seeing ourselves in these stories. California's already got a B+ on the national level for perinatal mental health. It's actually the best grade in the country compared to all the states. So we are doing well, but there's so much room for improvement, clearly. And that's why we're advocating through our state agency roundtable for we're going to relaunch a California task force for maternal mental health that will lead to our hope is a comprehensive plan for perinatal mental health that y'all can be a part of, envisioning what's next and what's needed. And that's how we get to our Office of Perinatal Mental Health. And so that brings me to my third point around movement building. You know, real change in public health, it takes everyone here, providers, parents, birth workers, advocates, funders, policymakers, community organizations, partners, and fathers. And the way I see this movement, it's where breast cancer was 50 years ago. You know, 50 years ago, if a mom had a lump, she might not talk about it for fear or stigma, right? And we have seen so much change and awareness around that issue, where awareness shifted culture shifted investment changed systems. It's the same with HIV/AIDS. So we know what works, we know what the solutions are. And not everyone has to run a statewide coalition or pass legislation. You know, sometimes movement building, it starts with telling your truth, like so many of you bravely told your truth today. It starts with checking on a parent, with changing one hospital practice, with funding community care, or helping one family feel less alone. And I recently heard Supervisor Holly Mitchell, she was asked, how are we going to meet this moment in these horrible times? And her question was, how big is your brave?
Nice.
And I think about, you know, we are the ones we've been waiting for, right? So that's what gives me hope, is that people across California are refusing to accept fragmentation and silence as inevitable anymore. Survivors are organizing, providers are speaking up, communities are leading. And across sectors, folks are recognizing that healing families is not someone else's responsibility. It belongs to all of us, and that's how systems actually change.
Thank you so much, Cassie, and thank you all for such a thoughtful, honest, and grounded conversation. As we close, I just want to reflect on a few key themes that emerged through today's discussion. First, storytelling is not separate from systems change. It helps drive it. The stories shared today are not just personal experiences, they are evidence, insight, and calls to action that help shape how we respond, advocate, and reimagine care. What I'm also hearing clearly is that families are not falling through the cracks by accident. The challenges discussed today reflect systemic issues that require systemic solutions grounded in accountability, investment, and collective action across sectors. At the same time, this conversation reminds us that while many of our systems remain fragmented, the solutions already exist, and many are already being modeled within our systems. Stronger systems require deeper coordination across community spaces, clinical care, public health, advocacy, and policy. Families should not have to navigate disconnected systems alone. Providers, community organizations, policymakers, advocates, and public health leaders all have a role to play in building coordinated systems of care that truly support families holistically. And finally, today reinforced that community voice and lived experience cannot simply be included as an afterthought. They must help drive the design of the systems we build moving forward. Because the people closest to the challenges are often closest to the solutions. I hope today's discussion challenges all of us not only to reflect, but to move differently, collaborate more intentionally, and continue pushing forward towards a future where all families are treated with dignity, respect, safety, and care. Thank you again to our incredible panelists for your honesty, wisdom, and vulnerability. And thank you all for being a part of this important conversation and movement forward. Let's give it up for our panelists.
Keep it going for Gabrielle. All of
Thanks so much. In closing, I'm going to let the two women created this incredible event. And by the way, I was so moved. It's been incredible. You two are amazing. But one more big round of applause for all of us. And I will graciously turn it back over for closing remarks to Cassie and Deb. Thank you so much.
Thank you for still being here, everybody. What an amazing day, and it's not over yet. This afternoon, we have some healing, wellness, and strategy labs that are going to bring us closer and to wellness and healing. But before we do that, Cassie and I would like to leave you with some actionable next steps, many of which we just heard. When we were here a year and a half ago, we said we wanted to start a coalition and we wanted to drive policy change. We didn't know exactly what that looked like. Now we have legislation, we have CPWA, we have all the people in this room allied, and things are changing and healing is happening, and we have 100 stories, from 50 stories to 100 stories today. So big shout out for everyone here in this room. Thank you. That's everybody. Okay. And I'm going to say it out loud that when we come together next year, we're going to have the California Task Force on Perinatal Mental Health and the Office of Perinatal Mental Health in California. Do you believe it? I know it's going to happen. Talk a little bit more about actionable next steps we can all take. I'm going to hand it over to Cassie.
Awesome. Thanks, Dev. So we're going to try to just run through this quickly because I know we're at time and we want to give folks time for the community labs. But just wanted to briefly touch on, these are sort of the marching orders for what comes next. We got to pass SB 626. We're strengthening local systems of care. We're building statewide coordination and accountability. And that's through our roundtable that we just had, advancing the task force and the comprehensive plan for perinatal mental health and the Office of Perinatal Mental Health. And we're continue growing the survivor-led movement power. So there's lots and lots of ways that you all can get involved. You can support policies like SB 626. You can get involved with organizations. We had 16 organizations sponsoring, so thank you so much to all the sponsors, and I hope everyone, thank you. I hope you all follow everyone on Instagram and all the social medias and get all the newsletters, because together I think we can really piece together this movement, right? And it takes all of us contributing in each of our own ways. You can amplify on social media. I'll say we have been doing this as a labor of love. We're actually both volunteers. So many thanks to First Five. First Five LA is our only grant right now. So more to come so that we can do all the amazing things that we do want to do. You can also share your story. So we're going to have a workshop where you can actually write down your story and contribute to the Breaking the Silence storybook. You can also host a Pain to Power party. So this is Dev's amazing documentary. You can have a film screening in your home or in your community or your workplace, and we have all the tools. And it was designed by my amazing cousin, Anna, who's our designer, who's a volunteer. So thank you, Anna. And you can also participate in Storyectomy Baby Bumps, Nicole's amazing comedic program, changing the world through comedy. So there's a little bit for everybody.
Big shout out to Nicole. Cassie and I both did this transformative 6 weeks workshop. Did you think either of us could do stand-up comedy? We did it. We did it. And so can you. And it's free because Maternal Mental Health Now, big shout out to Maternal Mental Health Now, funds it.
She funds it.
And the Crow funds it, and just so many amazing people in this room doing the work.
That's right. So we hope you'll stay connected, and one of the ways is through our community labs. So if we understand everyone may be showing up in different ways right now and needing different things. Some of you are ready to organize and take down, who, / do all the things. Some of you may be tired and just need to rest and be in your body for a little bit. We've had a lot of crying today, so we tried to offer a little bit for everybody. If you need to just rest or move your body or be in community, you're welcome to join our healing and integration yoga session led by the amazing Stannis Askew. Stannis, if you could raise your hand. Oh, she's outside. Okay, so that's going to be in the back courtyard outside in the corners, and we have yoga mats, and you are totally welcome to just line Shavasana the whole time, because rest and wellness and sustainability is absolutely part of movement work. I can't remember. Yeah, this is the other one, the storytelling.
Oh, yeah. So if you feel inspired to tell your story and you want guidance on how to do that, we're having storytelling lab. Or if you haven't had an opportunity to share earlier and just want a safe space to continue to share, we will be having a storytelling workshop led by Jess Ford, Marie Rivera, and the amazing Nicole Blaine right outside. And it's out there. Please come join us for more stories.
There you go. It's in the circle area, so it'll be very communal. The next one is strengthening local systems of care. So this is led by Kim Gray, who is on our panel, Dr. Anna King, and Mother Board member Marche Howell. And this will be an opportunity to, with all the amazing brain power in the room, really think about how are we strengthening local systems of care across hospitals, providers, birth workers, behavioral health, and community organizations. And that'll be that'll be over there. And then the last one is community visioning. So this is led by Somo. Somo is CPWA's strategy consultant, who's been a huge partner and leader in the roundtable work, along with Stevie Carter in the Motherboard. And we'll be facilitating a community visioning session about the future of perinatal mental health systems change. And we really want community voices to be at the lead, because those who are most impacted by these issues need to be at the lead and at the decision-making table and saying what comes next. And that'll happen right here in this corner. So before you leave today, please complete our evaluation survey. We intentionally made it 3 minutes long because we really, really want your feedback. We'll email this afterward, but your feedback really helps us improve future gatherings, understand what resonated, and continue building relationships and collaboration. So we'll leave it there. We truly hope today leaves you feeling inspired and that you keep bringing perinatal mental health and healing and community care into the spaces that you already lead. So just thank you so much for your honesty, your courage, your presence, and your care today. And we hope you feeling a little less alone, and reminded that meaningful change really is possible when communities come together like this. And I just want to make one more note to please remember to vote for the gubernatorial election. The deadline is June 2nd, and you should have received your ballot in the mail. And communities of color and folks in South LA often are not represented in these critical elections, so it's really important that you vote and make sure that our values are reflected in who becomes the next governor. And we can't do it without a governor who supports our issues. Right now, the governor is very supportive, hence the first partner support. So, all the change we need to make sure we have, that support. So that's my last plug. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all.